That's over there?
Yeah.
Oh,
You're not getting my picture?
I got your picture. I wasn't paying attention. I figured it was the picture over here, like the bottom. Okay.
We're at the by me 3 lines from the bottom.
Gotcha. All right, no problem. All right, beautiful. All right, perfect. Yeah. And these Bryces here don't. I got crazy. Yeah, I got caught up in these.
All the Gilmers.
It just didn't. I don't work with the yes. I mean, I understood what I was saying. It didn't.
You didn't open a different Yamim and go through puzzle by puzzle.
Oh yeah. All right, fine. Good morning, everybody. So 3 lines to the bottom. On Kuf Chaf Gimel, which is yesterday's blot, Saturdays. So boy mine Abba Khalifa Karuya Meribchia Barabba. So it says Bichlolon. When you go ahead and you count them, there's another. We saw reference to this before. Bichlolon Shiva. If you go ahead and you see when they're those who were entering Mitzrayim, right? So we see that the Torah calls it 70 descendants. And if you go ahead and you count it out, Shiva, you get to 69, not 70. So what's going on? There's Samalei. There was a twin with Dina. She was born with a twin. The pasuk says V'es Dina Bito. It could have just said Dina Bito. It said V'es. What's V'es? Come to include. There was another one. So anytime there's the word S, you didn't really need the word S. You're going to say there was a twin. It says the S Binyamin Achiv, right? Ben it says V'es Binyamin Achiv. And therefore, Amar, so he says, Margil is Taiva Haisa Biyadi Biata Bekeshli Avda Mimeni. Right? Really, I have a precious drasha, my hand, and you want me to lose it. Hachi Amar Rabbi Yechama Bar Chanina. This is what Rabbi Yechama Bar Chanina says. Zoyochevet. One is 69, and then the other one is 70, because that was referring to Yochevet Shaharasa B'derech, that she was conceived, I guess, in the way. The Leidasa Ben Achaimis, but she was born between the Moshe. The pasuk says Asher Yalda Isa LeLevi b'Mitzrayim. It says that was born to Levi Mitzrayim. Leidasa b'Mitzrayim. Only her birth was in Mitzrayim. Ve'ena Rasa b'Mitzrayim. However, her conception was not in Mitzrayim. And boy, it says Vayikasher Yalda Rachel Yosef. So it says over there when Rachel gave birth to Yosef. And then Yaakov Avinu says, okay, basically, it's time for us to get out of here. So why Bedafka after Yosef? So Maishnak, Kiseli Yosef. Right? So Amarle, Ra Yaakov Avinu Shein Zaro Shaisav Nimsar El Biyad Zaro Yosef. Yaakov Avinu saw that in the future, the descendants of Esav will only fall to those, to the descendants of Yosef. And Yosef wasn't born yet. So once Yosef was born, then he said, we're on Kuf Chaf Gimel Amid Beis. Then he said, basically that is today's now we're ready to leave now, and I know I said today's done, right? So we're ready to leave now, and that's when he requested from Lavan it's time to go. Shneimar Pasuk says Vayabes Yaakov Eish Ubeis Yosef Ubeis Esav Lakash. So it says over there that the house of Yaakov was fire, and Yosef was the flame, and basically Esav is straw ready to be consumed. So it was only Yosef that had the ability to go ahead and hit the descendants of Esav, Amalek. So he says, Esav, it says over there, it says, V'yachim David, mehanefesh v'ada erev l'mar charasam. It says over there, and David and Melech, he fought them, and he hit them back, right, from the evening up until the next day. So it says over there, this is referring to David. Now we know David came from Yehuda. He did not come from Yosef. So you see that this, it's Yehuda, not Yosef. Samalei, Zakrecha Neviah, like Recha Ksuvim. Whoever taught you Nevi'im did not go ahead and teach you Ksuvim. The pasuk says, "Belechta el Tziklog Naflu Allah Vimanasha." So it says over there, and then they went and they went to Tziklog, right? And he fell from Menashe, and who was it? And it was Anach, V'Yozeved, V'Yeduel, Michal, V'Yozeved, V'Eliu, V'Tzilosi. Raishei ha'alafim asher leMenashe. They were all from Menashe, and as we know, that Menashe was one of the two shvatim that came from Yosef, and therefore we see that amongst those who went ahead and were killing the Amalek was those from Menashe. So Meisi Rav Yosef, it says over here, Umehem mean b'nei Shimon. Right, it says those were from Bnei Shimon. Halchul they are Seir Anashim Chamesh Meos. Those they're from the descendants of Shimon, right? Not Yosef. 500. Uplatia, Unaria, Urfia, Uziel, Bnei Yishi, Berosham. It says over there they were all from the sons of Yishi, and who was at the top. Vayirko Asher Sapleta La Malek Vayeshu Sham Adi Yamazen. It says over there they killed off, or they killed those who were remaining from the Amalek, and they remain there until today. So you see, it's from Bnei Shimon. Some Rav Rashila Yishi mi Bnei Menashe. So Yishi, who was mentioned in the pasuk, he was from Bnei Menashe. The pasuk says, "Bnei Menashe Chefer v'Yishi." The sons of Menashe were Chefer and Yishi. Fine. So that was once we got into the Garta, then it started rolling. So that was the end of that story. Now, second last skinny line on Kuf Chaf Gimel and Beis. Now we'll go back to the Chor. Inheritance. So let's discuss that. Tan Rabbanim Habachor Naitel Bishnayim Bezroev Lechayim Vekeva. So, in addition, right, to the different karbanos and stuff. So when the Mikdash was around, there was other offerings that were matanos that were given to Kohanim. Even when you go ahead and you have your regular chicken, or let's say an animal, right? Yeah. You go ahead and you get your cow shechted, so you can everything. There's certain matanos that you go ahead and give to the Kohen. So you give the jaw, the zera, the front leg, and keva is one of the parts of the stomach. So those, now a bechor will get double portion, right?
At what point, if you give it to a Kohen, why would a bechor get?
So let's see. So let's see what's going on here. So right now we're going to deal with the family Kohanim, but the Gemara is going to say what's going on. Umukdash, and also things that are hektish, the bechor gets double portion. It's the assets of the father. And then even any sort of shevach, any sort of gains, right, that the nechasim got after the father's death, right? So let's say there's a bechor, right? Any gains, let's say something that grows naturally without any sort of work, right? That the amount that increases despite after the death, if it wasn't given out yet, if it wasn't divvied up, then the bechor still takes pishnaim even in the addition. Ketzat. So if the father, let's say, let the cow that say it was under somebody else's watch, and be out of cherem, or was rented out to somebody else, or let's say it was out in the fields. It was out in a field where he did not have to care for it or tend to it. Basically, it was on its own, and it was on its own. And it gave birth. So it increased in value. It gave birth on its own. It didn't require any watching by the sons, right? Either somebody else was watching because it was rented out, or it was taking care of itself out in the marsh. The Yolda, Bechor Notel B'Shnayim, so that the son will get a double portion. Aval, but let's say the father died, they didn't give out the assets yet. But let's say the father didn't die. Then they went. He died, but they didn't give out the assets. And then they went ahead and they built houses and they planted vineyards. Ein bechor noitel b'shnayim. The bechor does not get b'shnayim because this was done through the avoda, through the work of the sons. It wasn't just the estate on its own. There was others adding with their efforts to the estate, and therefore the bechor doesn't have a right to double portion. The double portion is only something that was left from the father.
You don't get the shvach b'shnayim.
Right.
Just the shvach, but the foundation.
Yes, correct, but not right. Not if it gave birth, it was like let's say it was a flock and it gave a bunch of births, but they had to be tended to and watched by the shepherd or whatever it was. By they paid for it, therefore I wouldn't do it. So let's go back to the other case. Alan was asking, what's the case there? If let's say their father was the Kohen and they gave it to the father and then the father died, so Pshita, it's obvious he gets Pishnayim, just like any other asset that the father has, right? You open his freezer, he has steaks and meats and all that, and he also has stuff from that was given to him from Matanas Kahuna. So of course the Bechor gets Pishnayim. And if the father never got it, it only came afterwards, right? The month later they brought it to the father, So then of course he doesn't get it afterwards, right? That's something which is called Roi.
So we're
right?
talking about Yorshim of a Cohen.
Yes. Right, and that, but if it hasn't come yet, so even though it was going to come, so it was only something which is destined to come, but not there yet. And we saw Roy is in a kamuchzak, right? Something that was already in the possession. That is certainly pishnai, but something that didn't come to the possession, as we'll actually discuss today, that is not pishnai. The bechor does not get double portion a roy, something that was already in his grasp. So the Gemara says, "Hachav makire kahuna askin." And over here, we're talking about the guy's best friend, lived next door, and he always, every time he shechted a cow, he would go ahead and bring the matos kahuna to his buddy Chaim Katz, and therefore Chaim Katz was his kohen, always got it. So the guy he had an animal, the ashchit b'chayav, and he shechted the animal. Well, Chaim Katz was still alive, right? And then he died. So that was going to be given. The guy just didn't get around to be given it. Right? That the matanos that were, even though they weren't separated, as if it was separated already. So therefore, for the time of the shechita, it was already kilu, it was in the possession of the kohen, right? And even though he died and it wasn't given yet, it was considered like it was given, and therefore it's considered like it was given. That's the reason why the bechor would get pi shtayim.
Because the animal had already been checked.
Right? But if he just owned it, right, and he didn't shecht it, then he wouldn't have acquired pishnai. So now let's get to the next part of the brayso. The next part says,
Alan,
It's two.
flip over that I'll have the on. It's like bugging me.
Yeah. It's two.
all right. Now let's see the next part of the brayso. The next part of the brayso says mukdashin, things that were considered to be hekdesh mukdashim lavdidenu, right? That's not considered to be his mukdash lavdidenu. I understand. So how come it's hekdesh, right? So it goes to it's part of the mikdash. Why should he get double? So Ryan says, so the kachim kalim, kachim kalim, right? Certain karvanos are kachim and oila chatas, right? And turns around the kachim kalim, shlamim, atoda, pesach, right? So those, and because those are eaten by the owner, and therefore there is benefit that goes down. So it's considered to be like personal funds to the point that a person go ahead and marry a woman. Hey, will you marry me with this animal, right? That that could be used as a toda or something like that. It was already hektish, but it's considered to be mammon bailim, right? And therefore, as the mammon bailim, the father owned it. Therefore, it's already considered to be like muchsak in the hands of the father. He has it in 1 second. He has ownership in it, and since he has ownership in it, therefore the bechor gets pishtayim.
Person already designated an animal for a korban.
Right.
And then he can be Makadosh and Isha with it.
Right. Correct. There is value in it, and it's considered to be his mammon. Now she can't go ahead and eat it, right? She has to offer it, but it's hers, right? There's a value to that.
I would think that would only refer to an Ola or Shlamim, but certainly not.
Well, Ola's kachikach.
Oh, Ola's
Yeah.
right. We're talking about Kachikala.
Right, kachikach. That's what it says. Right. Mammon bailim.
Yeah, okay.
The Tanya, we learn in Brisa.
Okay, now
We learn over there, Mala Hashem. So it says over there, he learns over the pasuk, Mala Hashem, extra word, Mala. The rabbi is kachikalim shehein mammon bailim. According to Rabbi Yosef Glili, that is considered to be mammon bailim. The guy, in addition to being, Shel Hashem, obviously, it was sanctified. There's kedusha to it also, but it is considered to be mammon bailim. And also regarding other halachos. So avian paros. Now let's go to the next here. So we said avian paros muskaros biyad. Let's say he left them animals, right? That were in other people's. They were signed off to others, or they were rented to others. Or let's say it was out in the fields in a public area where it was able to sustain itself. I.e., these cases are where there is no expense or effort done on from the sons, the yolda, and then it gives birth before netel b'shnai. So then it gives birth. So Hashta Mechaka Miskara is the lab. There's to say Tamare Ditu Kaima Marta Shakil. Understand? So if it's already leased or co-signed to somebody else, and they're watching, and then it gives birth, then the Bechor gets Pishnayim. So in that case, so when it's going over there and it's grazing and it's eating on its own, right? And it's in no one's rishus, right? Boy, you have to come to teach us that case. Now, of course, if it's in someone else's rishus and it's still considered to be like it's in his father's rishus, certainly if it's in no one's rishus, it should the Bechor should get Pishnayim. So our answer is no. Hakamashlan the Mukhachas Mushteres Dumia Deroya. Befer is no, it's coming to teach us the other way. The chiddush is that mukhachas, if it's co-signed or rented out, is similar to it basically grazing on its own. Just like when it's going ahead and grazing on its own out in the field or in the marsh, it's shevach. In other words, it comes on its own, and the person does not have the expense of feeding it. So to over here, where there is no it doesn't cost them anything. So money. So whose opinion is this? Turn the page, right? So we say Rebbe. This is going to be the opinion of the Rebbe. We're going to soon see a machlekes between the Tani and Brisa. Sure, second. The Tani with the Brisa. It says. The Bechor does not get Pishnayim and any Shevach that the Nechasim gal Yachar Misas Avihan. All right, straight. They hold. You take a picture, right? You take a picture of what the assets were, and that is Pishnayim, right? Any Shevach and the Nechasim Yachar Misas Avihan, right? So I'm guessing. I used this example yesterday. In the other case when there was, but. Right, the person dies and leaves a stock of $100, right? Then the stock goes up to $120. So the extra $20, so that is not considered according to this first shita, right? This is the shevach from this own nechasim, right? The nechasim itself, the $100 of stock became $120 from no work of any other participants. So therefore, that $20 is not split up where the Bechor gets Pishnayim. He only gets the double portion from the 100, but the other part of the he would just get the strain. And Rebbe says, if the assets increase on their own without the effort of the children or the estate, then the Bechor still gets Pishnayim. In other words, basically, since the father owned those assets, and the assets were able to be mashviach on their own, right, to increase on their own without any other form of work. So therefore, that's still considered the father's estate, and therefore the Bechor will get Pishnayim. But not the work. Let's say that the father left over a farm, right? And then they work the farm, and then they sell it to wholesalers and this and that, and they make money. No. That money was not the father's estate doing its own work. That was the children and those involved doing the work with the father's possessions, but it wasn't the father's estate. It's only stuff that come in Mela on its own. Those things, says Rebbe, you get Pishnayim. But something that you actually the work in, that then he agrees with the Tanakama that there is no double. Now Yarshish Tarchav.
There's been times within the
so right now it didn't give any sort of time period, right? Whether it's a day or a year, right. So, but it has to do with in terms of work or expenses on behalf of others for the nechasim. So now let's see the next case. Interesting case. Shtarchov. What about a Shtarchov? Now the father lent out money. He wrote a document, right? You owe me $100, and then the father dies. So is that shtarchov? Would the Bechor, when it's paid back eventually, would that get Pishnayim or not? So shtarchov Bechor not to Pishnayim. Yatzalei shtarchov, right? So you get Pishnayim. But let's say like this, Yigal. Let's say consistent. Let's say the father owed $200 to somebody else. So you have to love Shtarchov. Bechor noitzin Pishnayim. Bechor, you got to pay double, right? You have double portion, both sides. Dim Omer Eini Noisev Eini Noitel.
Because he pays down the brother.
And if he says, "Hey, you know what? I have an idea. I'm not going to give the extra because I realize now, our father was underwater, right? In other words, he owed more money than he had. So he said, I don't want pishnayim. Thank you, Torah, but I don't want pishnayim. If he remember any night, save any night, Rashai, he's allowed to do it. Fine. So that was that. So not my time of the Rabbana. And what's the
Where's the father owed the money?
so right? The father owed the money. The Bechor is to pay double, according to what we said. But the Bechor is allowed to say, I don't want to take pishnayim. Now, the Bechor, you could say, I don't want to take pishnayim if there's no debts. It's all assets. He could if he wants. Well, why would he do it? Right? Over here, he has a reason to do it. I don't want to pay.
I think it's nice when we have some of the Torah says. Torah says you get pishnayim.
Right. So we saw earlier, I think on yesterday's, yesterday's. In other words, a person, I think Rabbi Yochanan broke was allowed. So according to him, he can say all my assets go to one of my sons, right? As long as the son is an inheritor, right? He inherits, but he can't say all my possessions go to my neighbor because then he's against the Torah. The Torah says
No, but even
sons get.
Mars going to talk about it. Yisrael is called a matan, so you.
Yeah, that's what. Right. We'll get into. That's the Rabbanan. What?
In most of the cases, the children are responsible for the debt.
Right. Yeah. Right. But
So
right. But the core. Right. So yeah. So let's see. My time of the Rabbanan. What's the reason according to the Rabbanan to in other words the first sheet of the Tanakama which says that even if the assets are not on their own, but it was after the father's death, then there's no more pishnayim. So Makar says lo says lo pishnayim. It's called a gift. Right? So So the Bechor is a matana. It's a matana. It was given. So therefore, just like a matana, it's not future increases are not included. So too, when it comes to the Bechor, right? Even though there's an inheritance that could increase, but nevertheless, the Bechor pishnayim that doesn't increase because that's like a matana. The Rebbe Yomer and Rebbe would say, Amakra. The pasuk says pishnayim. It says double portion. Makish chelik b'chor chelik pashut. So the b'chor is just like a pashut. Ma chelik pashut afal gadol imatzli yadei. So just like the chelik pashut that increases, even though it didn't come to his hand, right? In other words, it goes to the descendants. So the b'chor also could increase even after the father's death. Afal gadol imatzli yadei, even though it didn't come to the father's hand. It says pishaim is like a double, whatever the one son gets, it should be a double portion. So isn't it? It shouldn't be also. Why it should be even after the death, not just like a matana. So he says no. To learn out that pishnayim means that if the son gets a double portion, then he can insist on all of his assets being together. In other words, you can't say, okay, you get 2 plots of land, one you get 2, you get this one and that one over there. No. Mm-hmm. He can insist on this one and the one next door to it to make it easier. That's what we learned from Pishnayim. The Rebbe Nami I Haksiv Lo Seis Lo. It says Lo Seis Lo, gift to him sounds like a gift, and a gift can only be given when he has it in his possession. But if it's something in the future, it's not a gift. That comes to teach you that it was gift. A person can say, I don't want a gift. Right, so a bechor can say, "I don't want the bechor," right, and that's what if he's smart, the father owes too much money. I don't want to pay double on that.
Why isn't this money supposed to be taken out before the money was given out? Like I don't give you a gift unless I have what to give you a gift with. So
right,
if they were to take the money, like revert back to the original, whatever the story was. Now let's go make his make what's correct, and then give out pishnayim. So go back to the first.
But the pishnayim, no. But anything that comes, even though it was due to the father, but he didn't collect it yet, so therefore he can't give it out as a gift. So the according to the Tanakama, the gift is only the b'choras, the gift. Everything else is inheritance, so it is earned or whatever it is. So therefore those can be assets that can follow later on, as opposed to the pishnayim, right, which is considered to be a gift, and therefore that you can't say, oh, we'll just bring it back. He didn't have it.
It's funny. I think what I might do, but I think he's asking is set off all the accounts, whatever's left after the split. So for example, if you had paid the lawyer, you don't doesn't pay the lawyer $200 as much, does he? And then once everything is settled, okay, here's how much is left.
Because that only works by Yerusha, it doesn't work by Pishnayim. Because it says let's say slow.
That is Yerusha.
What does it mean? What's the difference between Yerusha and Pishnayim?
I mean, Yerusha, because Yerusha is even if the assets increase, right? So then it still goes to the children. We don't say right? If the orchard, let's say he left over an apple orchard and nothing was done, or let's say the animal that was out there on its own and gave birth, and now there's two animals, right? So we don't say that second animal was born hefker, no one gets it, the children get it. But there is no Bechor Pishnayim in that birth of that.
Father of debt, like in theory, the forest would pay double the debt. Is what you're saying.
What we said before, right?
Pishnayim is still coming out of the Yerusha.
No,
This is
Pishnayim-
coming out of the Bachar's personal.
No, right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just the question is, does he get Pishnayim and then everyone has to share the debt equally, or
Right.
no? Does he have to pay double the debt because he got
Correct. From
Pishnayim?
this
Yeah.
one thing. Right.
So he would, the before would get Pishnayim of both the assets and the liability.
Correct. But only the ones that are correct. But the ones that are right, that are right.
And if the before says, well, I don't want Pishnayim of the liabilities, then he is also not.
He gives up all the bechira, right? And even if he would have come out ahead, right? But she just doesn't want to deal with it. He's allowed to say it. Person's allowed to say it because, like a matana, right? Just like a matana, you say, you know what? I appreciate the gift, but no, thank you. You don't have to accept it.
But it's totally with you. They don't have nothing to do with that. He can, if he wants to, he can just say.
Who? The bechor.
Pork.
Yeah, that's what we learned from there. He's allowed to go ahead and say, right. So let's see.
CD that is gonna mature in
Right.
3 months.
Yeah.
after Death, is it worth the value of the, when it matures or the day that he died?
There's a CD. Is it like a daily rate, but it's only paid at the end? You know what I'm saying? Or is it's only paid at the end? You know what I'm saying? If it's only paid at the end, l'chaira,
It's paid
That would be-
again, but it's
calculate, right, yeah, right, that's what I'm saying, so. It could be, how it's written up, the CDs are written up. That, but if it was something that is just only earned at the end, right? So, I mean, let's say, right, the account is closed and you don't get it afterwards, right, so those CDs, yeah, no. I think it depends on the fine print, literally, right? So, Amar Papa, so let's say, now, so let's try and understand this machlokes. So, Dikla, let's say there was a tree, right? The palm tree, and it became stronger, Arav Asik Sirtam, or let's say a field, and then like it fertilized and it increased, it was still of itself. The Kuli Amalei Pligi the Shako. Everyone says that the firstborn, that's just, that's natural that, the tree, we don't say, oh, it got stronger. The tree was worth 100 when he died. Now it's worth 120. Well, but that was a continuous growth of the tree. That was a continuous, just of the land. The land didn't do anything. No one worked the land. It just increased in value on its own. Everyone agrees in that there's Pishnayim. So keep league. What's this machlekes between Tanakama and Rabbi? The Chafuravari Shuvle. Right? A case of, let's say there was like hay, and then then they start to grow into stalks, right? Or shlufe vavi tamar, it was blossom and then turned into dates. And that was where there was a shino, there was an actual change. The Mara Savar Shikha the Mela. Right, according to Rebbe, the shevach came automatically on its own, and therefore, since they didn't do anything, therefore the bechor will get pishnai, right? And Marsavar Ishtani says no, since it changed, it has a different name, right? That's now dates, it's no longer blossoms. Therefore, it's considered to be quote unquote new, something after the death of the father, and therefore the bechor would not pishnai. This would be divvied up regularly. So bottom line, Asa Kadive Rebbe. Asa, one wants to go ahead and do like Rebbe, then he could do it. Remember, Rebbe was the one who says that if it increased, on its own, without work, even despite the fact that it changed its name, since it came from Mela, the Bechor would get a double portion. And if one wants to do like a Chamin, like the Tanakama, right? In other words, say, hey, since it's changed its name, it's considered to be something new, and therefore it just gets split evenly amongst the children. It's not Bechor Pishnayim. Also, why is that? So mispeculate. So it's a suffix. If the halach we say like Rebbe, like his friend, a one-on-one, but not plural, i.e., they're abundant. So not halach Rebbe when he argues with one, another Tana. But it's not halach like Rebbe when he argues with the Rabbanan, which is multiple times. Or maybe we say halach Rebbe mechaver. The halach is like Rebbe versus his friend. And Rebbe, even when he's going against multiple chaverim, right? I.e. the Rabbanan, which is the Tanakh in this case. And Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rav, also lasses Kedivrei Rebbe. It's also to do like Rebbe, and now to give the Bechor Pishnayim case, Kasavar, he must hold Halach Rebbe Chaver, B'lo Mechaverov, right? The Halach is only like Rebbe when it's one-on-one. If it's Rebbe versus the Chachamim, the Rabbanan, then the Halach is not like him. Rav Nachman, D-Day, and Rav Nachman, he himself says, Amar Mutulas is Kediva Rebbe, you could do like Rebbe, Kasavar Yod, Halach Rebbe Mechaverov, Ve'afil Mechaverov, Halach is like Rebbe versus Chaverov, and even over his friend. And Amar Rava, Osvilasa is Kediva Rebbe, it's also to do like Rebbe, V'imasa also. But if you do it, then it's good. So Kasavar Matin, because he holds right that as we lean towards that way. In other words, but normally we don't go out and rule that way. But nevertheless, that we do lean towards Rabbi, but we don't go out and paskin. So therefore,
Where's the Rabbanan? No.
Matin is Mar. Right, now as we go after them, but if you avad karebi, right, right, I guess we lean the but nevertheless, if one does like Rebbe, you can still do it.
When we first had this focus and
Yeah.
See who I was curious who the Halach was like. You see who the Aleph was.
Yeah. Right, Mechaverov. So we lean towards that way.
Must be.
Usually, I mean, that's usually it's like that, but then you have to sort of look at the fine print. It's not always like where the letter. 90% of the time. So Tani Rav Nachman Bashar Sifri de Rav. So it's taught that Rav Nachman taught now the Sifri de Rav. B'chol Asher Yematzei Lo. So the pasuk over there says, right, refer to the Bechor because the Bechor, right? Says Lo Pishnai B'chol Asher Yematzei Lo. Everything that's found by the father. Right? This to exclude Shevach that the Yorshim got after the death of the father. But any Shevach that came from the Nechasim itself, not through anyone else's work, then Shakil, then they would, then in that case, he would take Pishnai. So Umani, whose opinion is this? So Umani, this is Rebbe. This is the opinion of Rebbe, who says that the Chassim can go ahead and make it. So Tani Rav Rechama, so Bashar Sifri de Rav. So it's taught Rav Rechama Shav Sifri de Rav. B'chol Asher Yimatzei Lo Prala Shevach Sheshbichu Nechasim Nacham Yisavian. Right. So according to this brisa, it's any Shevach that the Nechasim make. Now there's two different levels. There's a level of people making the Shevach, right? That certainly is not that was not. But then Shevach, we said before, according to Rebbe, the Shevach itself makes it. Now, as if the Nechasim make the Shevach, then it's kept. Versus over here, now this brisa says that the Shevach that the Nechasim make, those are not Pishnayim, right? And the culture gain certainly the Shevach certainly any Shevach that the Yorshim do with the assets of the father, that the Bechor does not take Pishnayim. So money. Whose opinion is this? So Rabbanan he. So there's the Rabbanan who say that even the Shevach that comes to the Chazan himself do not get Pishnayim. And Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Shmuel, Ein Bechor Noitel Pishnayim b'milveh. So it says Rav Yehuda, Amar Shmuel, the Bechor does not take Pishnayim b'milveh in a loan. Or in other words, it was a loan given out, and then they asked to pay back. So $100 come back to the father's estate.
That's what we said originally, that a lot of those rules don't apply on the whole.
And what?
The children are not responsible for the father.
No. So this is collect. These are receivables right now. These are receivables. So someone owes the father money, right? So let's say he had 4 sons, right? So everyone says, okay, he owes us $100. So perfect. We'll each get another $25. The other one says, no. I get Pishnayim, right? He gave out the loan during his lifetime, so when it's paid back, I should get $40, and you each get $20. So So Laman, who does this mean? Who is this like? If it's according to Rabbanan, I understand. Hashta shivcha the isa b'rshusei. I mean Rabbanan lo shakil lo shakil, right? Milva miboy. So we said earlier that any shevach that the estate goes, right? He leaves over. Right, trees, and it produces fruit. Or we'll go to the case of the Gemara gave, right? So it has an animal that gave birth on its own, right, without any work. So in that case, you don't get any, right? You don't get the thing. So certainly something that was not in the father's possession, i.e., he lent out the money, didn't come back yet. Certainly, you shouldn't get it, right? You shouldn't get Pishnayim, right? In that case. So Elo the Rebbe, maybe it's according to Rebbe, right? Vela Hadatani, but that which we learn in the Brisa, Yershu Shtar Chayv. If they're Yaresh Shtarchov, then he goes that he does take Pishnayim. Bain b'milva, bain b'ribis, right? Whether it's a loan or b'ribis. In other words, since the father had the money, right, during his time, and then he gave it out as he was to a guy where he's allowed to go ahead and charge ribis, right? So Shtarchov before he takes a double portion, both in the milva and the ribis. And we just said now, right, according to Samani, lo Rebbe v'lo Rabbanan, right? Because this is not according to Rebbe the Rabbanan, because we said earlier, right, that even according to Rebbe, that the star he wouldn't be able to get it. So Gemara says L'Yalam Rabbanan. Really, the other brisa was the Rabbanan, right? And why over there Rabbanan? So Yitzchak, and we need a Salgadai Kamina Milva came on the Nakid Star command the Gavi. No, it had to teach us even according to Rabbanan that you don't, according to Rabbanan, that you don't get in the loan. In other words, the whole thing was, it couldn't have been the halacha that we just said that the loan, the Bechor does not get Pishnai, because that's Pashut, so it must have been Rebbe. If that's Rebbe, who says in this case that the loan and the ribis gets Pishnayim. So really, no, that is Rebbe. Rebbe says the loan, anything that was given out is Pishnayim. But you might have thought that even Rabbanan would agree. Why? Because the guy had the note, right? The father was holding on to the note. He was holding on to the note. It was as if it was in the father's possession already. It was in the father's possession already. So therefore, just because it's like the father died, so instead of having, the money in his wallet, he had money in the bank. I just had to go out to the bank and get the money. But it was my father's money. So it's over here. He has the note. The $100 is in the guy's pocket once he pays. It was like he had it the whole time. So maybe you think even the Rabban would agree that that's considered to be kamuchzak, and therefore that's considered to be pishnayim. So kamash malan, that we do not say that. So kamash malan, that according to the Rabbanan, we need to teach us that it's not considered to be collected, and only according to Rebbe is the what's it called? Is it considered to be in his possession? The receivables, the promissory note. So Shalchem Mizam Bechor Noita Bishnai B'Milva Avaloi B'Ribis. Now we have another halach that we learn over there. It says the Bechor, right? So let's say it was a note due to the father, promissory note, right? So he got it. So Noita, so the Bechor does get Pishnayim of the principal that's coming back, the say $1,000, but the interest of Avaloi B'Ribis, but the interest is divided evenly. Remember, this was the guy evenly amongst the sons. Now, Laman, who's this according to? If this is according to Rabbanan, Hashta Shivcha the Isay B'Shusay, Rabbanan Delay Shakil, Milva Miboy. According to Rabbanan, right, that the assets they all go ahead, which are in his possession, right? The cow is here and it gives birth, and nevertheless the Bechor is Pishnayim, right? So the Rabbanan would say, right? So the Rabbanan need to say, Rabbanan the Lo Shakil Milva Miboy. You have to teach us that he doesn't get the loan. So Ela Rebbe, according to Rebbe. Well, the Rebbe, the ribis low, but according to Rebbe, the ribis, he does not get the whole portion of Atanya. Rebbe Yomer b'chor noitel b'shnayim bein b'milva bein b'ribis. He gets both double portion, not only in the principal of the $1,000, but even the interest. The b'chor get pishnayim according to Rebbe. So li'aylam rabbanani, really it's the rabbanani. Umilva command the gavya dam, and a milva is like that something that was already collected. Therefore, the milva according to Rabbanan is not like we said earlier, right? The milva would be as if it was collected. Right? It was already, even though he didn't have it yet, it wasn't his possession. But since he had a promissory note that said the guy owes me $1,000, it was like it was collected. It was like it was in the father's estate when he died, and therefore the Bechor will get Pishnayim. And Omer le Ravacha Barav Levina Ikla a Meimar. So Meimar was biased last and Darish and he darshan Bechor noitel Pishnayim v'milva aval loy beribis. The Bechor does take Pishnayim in a milvet, just like we saw over here, but not by the ribis. Samalei Nahardiya and Tamayo, the two Nahardians, right? They say like each other. A Neymar was from there, right? Diamar Rabba, because Rabba says Gavu Karka Yeshlo. So he says if we'll soon get to this tomorrow. So if land was collected, right, in lieu of the return, then so he says so Gavu Karka so Yeshlo. The then is considered to be like it was always in the estate of the father, and therefore the Bechor will get Pishnayim. A Gavel most, but if it's just money, then ain't low. For Rav Nachman, Rav Nachman, who we said it was similar to a Meimar because either the Hardians, Gavel most Yeshlo. right? If he goes ahead and he collects money, then Yeshlo, then the Bechor does get Bishnaim. Why? Because it's considered like it was always in the estate. It was just somewhere else. He gave money and he got money back. So therefore, it was always considered his estate, and therefore the Bechor got Bishnaim. However, got Karka, ain't low. But if it was land, then he does not get a double portion in that case. And then we'll soon get into this case. Which one?
That's what he does.
All right, so we'll soon see. This is why there's a kilo. Right. Shkayach was the start here because that was considered something that he never had. Oh, wait, sorry.